can go east on Route 22 and take Route 56 south to Seward, and a little bit past Seward you will see the northern terminus to the Laurel Highlands Hiking Trail, which is where hikers and runners will get the bus at 3:30 in the morning. This year it's on July 10th, 2017, to take them to Ohiopyle State Park and the trail's southern terminus to begin the day-long adventure, which I'm hoping to finish this year, but hikers and runners have up to 22 hours. So I think in telling you my story here, I might have missed my campground, although to the right here is exactly where I camped last year. Pretty much right there. But since it's one way, I'll probably go around again. So this is the loop of camping at Keystone State Park. What I wanted to do for this year's sort of pre-race video is a lot of time lapse, since I didn't really know how to do that last year. I wasn't sophisticated enough for that, so you'll see a lot of silent time lapse, but where necessary I'll insert the 4K narrative sections. Alright, so tomorrow I will be paced by my friend He first saw me on the Laurel Highlands Ultra 2 years ago in 2015 when I made it to mile 39. The year before that I made it to mile 32. Last year I made it to mile 57, so my goal this year is definitely to finish. He'll be meeting me at mile 46 to pace me from mile 46 all the way to the end, mile 70.5, which it'll actually say 70 on the trail, but you cover about a half mile before you get to the trailhead, going from the falls to mile 0. So should be coming up now on campsite number 27, which interestingly enough is the same numbered campsite I got for the Canyon Man Triathlon when I attempted that for the second time up in Tioga County in May. Here is campsite 27, looks pretty nice. I just set the tent up so it's ready for me. Got to get up at like 2:30 or maybe even earlier to get the bus at 3:30, so I'm going to come back and sleep real fast after I shower. That's Keystone Lake. It's kind of small. I might kayak on it on Sunday just to do something not on my legs. Looks like it might rain. For this year's camping, I'll show you what I'm using. I'm still using my 1970s era thermarest. We have 3 of these. I got this from my dad from before I was born. Although this year I do have a relatively new sleeping bag. Looks to be a Marmot. I may have had this, may or may not have used it last year. What's definitely new is the tent that I have here. Those are Trails outdoor equipment. Looks to be about a 3-person tent. It's got a nice rain fly. It kept me really, really dry in torrential rain up in Clarion this past week, so far I'm pretty satisfied with it. I've come to realize that really cheap Walmart tents are better than really expensive tents because I break them at the same rate no matter what, so it's easier to get a cheap one and replace it than an expensive one. But I will get back with the So there you have it, Pre-Laurel Ultra tent setup. Before I misspoke, I didn't mean to call the Ozark Trails tent that I recently purchased from Walmart cheap in the sense that anything negative about it. That's just something that Western Pennsylvania people frequently say for relatively inexpensive. So it's only cheap if it breaks the first time. And so far I'm on to the second use. But if any of you people are interested in providing me with high quality, more costly American-made tents, I'd be open to the proposition. I have to run it by my employer or whatever, but you know, if it lasts a long time and it works, it's a good tent for me. I'm hard on tents. I do ultra running, kayak, camping, bike packing occasionally backpacking. Sometimes I just camp because it's the cheapest way to go, so I use tents a lot. The one thing I do wish this tent had is underneath there's this rain fly which attaches to the side tent poles, and I wish that it had something to flip it in place near the top. Actually it does, so it's right here. But because I'm completely goofy, I put the thing on backwards. Okay, so now you can see the properly set up rain fly on this tent. It cost me less than $50 at Walmart. So there you have it. Next thing I'll show you will be a time lapse to the dinner in Johnstown. So you have to be a little bit goofy to attempt to run 70.5 miles on the Laurel Highlands Trail in one day. But I tell you, it's beautiful and it's so much well worth the experience, even if you can't run it. Just like people that have worked aid stations, pacers, just people love to be involved in this. And you know, I'm a little goofy here because I am going to bring my gluten-free pasta to the pre-race dinner. So I have celiac, so I can eat a delicious dinner. The meatballs and the salad and everything they have are usually really good. areas, it does appear just as a hill if you're coming from the east, because you're on a high Laurel Highlands plateau. But not all of those areas. Coming from the west, it's pretty consistently a dramatic increase in elevation. So as I head into Johnstown, I'm following a valley, which not sure what creek or whatever runs through here, but I know the Conemaugh River goes through Johnstown. But it kind of seems to me as if the valley gets lower as the mountain gets higher. The mountain will appear on the right. For the Laurel Ultra, the race leaves promptly from the northern terminus of the trailhead, which you saw early in this video, at 3:30 a.m. Last year I got there at about 3:31 or 3:32, and one of the guys that is volunteering, that he was there and he drove me there, and the people are just so wonderful. It looks like from 4:30 a.m. on, you are allowed to do registration in the morning. Of course, if you're there in the morning, you'll have to have someone to pick you up at the northern end, or somehow figure out how you're going to have your vehicle there, because you won't be getting a ride back from the north once you finish. 5:30 is the race start. 7:30 a.m. for the people doing the 50K. So the blue dot represents my location. Looks like I need to go down 56 a little bit further until I reach almost to Route 271. And then to show what you will see, there's the river. That's the Conemaugh River. So the road's gonna parallel the Conemaugh River. and then at some point you'll make what looks to be sort of a slight left onto Napoleon Street, and then another right onto Market Street. You won't have to go very far, like 2 blocks, and then 250 Market Street should be on the left. Now heading last few miles south on 56. Some previously mentioned roads. Johnstown as you approach the Holiday Inn. This area here, I think, looked like a third world country last year with a bunch of torn down buildings. I'm not sure what had happened, but it appears to be very different. 705, still here in Johnstown. I'm going to go in and purchase a Laurel Highlands Trail cup that they have for sale. That's a distant view, but what you can see is the Johnstown incline. I'm not sure if there's one of them or there's multiples, but yeah, it looks like it's bigger and quite a bit steeper than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has 2 inclines too. Some storms coming. There weren't any meatballs this year, so I had my pasta with some vegetables. You never know, I guess they do change the dinner a little each year. But if I hadn't brought my pasta, there wouldn't be so much gluten-free stuff for me to have. Got my Laurel Highlands Ultra cup and a Laurel Highlands shirt, a gray shirt. I don't know if you can see it has the 70-mile marker, 70.5-mile marker on it. Thinking it might be something to give my buddy who's pacing me, the shirt or the cup or both. I have to think about it, just as a little thank you. Because I can tell you, I probably wouldn't finish if there's not someone there at mile 46 kind of encouraging me along, but I want to really try to finish this year. Here is the better picture of the shirt that runners got last year in 2016. Laurel Highlands Ultra milepost and a picture of Laurel Mountains on the back. Better picture here of the cup, which I didn't even know existed. So now, 7:12, I'm heading back to my camp at Keystone Park campground, and I will do some time lapse, similar to last year. This time quiet though, because I have a 15 times time lapser, and the obligatory stop right before the race at the northern trailhead.
So just the weather was crazy.
All right,
so let's hear from these guys and
Ethan Newberry and Ginger Runner podcast right before the Laurel Highlands Ultra. Ethan Newberry, if you ever get out to the east and you came to Laurel Highlands Ultra,
watching live,
it's a good race.
Thank you for tuning in tonight. We're traveled those mountains as well as these mountains. Was there a comparison? Would you call this the Hard Rock of Canada?
I would, and I think that Hard Rock, you know, I ran about half the course when I paced, and I ran some more of it before and after as well. It was awesome training because it was very similar in the long climbs, the long descents. You know, a mix of technical, some runnable, but mostly hiking. A little bit of altitude. You get fairly high in this race. I wouldn't call it a high altitude race, but that, you know, having the altitude training definitely helped me. So I think that, you know, one would be good training for the other, and obviously Hard Rock, you'd have to, you know, pace maybe to train for this one, or this is an alternate to Hard Rock if you don't get in and you're targeting that. I think they're very comparable for sure.
Before we start getting into the race recap side of things, there's a good question in here for Brandy. Brandy, I'm guessing that you're referring to Fat Dog with your question here. Are there weigh-ins at the aid stations, kind of like Western states? Is there any of that kind of, where they have medical crew keeping an eye on all the runners as they come through, or is it much more, you should know your conditions, you should know your abilities, and you should know where you're at? Jeff, sorry.
No, there was nothing like that. There was one point, I think it was at Bonnevere, where they
Oh, 7 different ones of these Woolhouse Farms drinks. They're so good. I love getting them at this Blairsville Walmart. For some reason, they seem to be the only place that has them. They're probably in every Walmart, but I just like getting them when I'm out here. Strawberries. Strawberries made me revive last year, big time, at mile 57. Had I eaten some a little earlier, I probably wouldn't have stopped. So thank you, strawberry.